Did you know that you are a wonderful person in your own right? That life has set a unique stamp of individuality on you, and that no one else can ever take your place in the scheme of things. No two persons have identical thumbprints. No two blades of grass are alike. No two leaves of a tree. No two snowflakes ever are identical. So often we single out some character in history or some person we know and think, how I wish that I might be like him. And yet this would be suicide to the real self. For if life had seen fit to make all of us just a little different, then we do not have to be exactly like others. If two people were exactly alike, one of them would be unnecessary in the scheme of things. Yes, you and I are individuals, but we are individuals rooted in one life, each drawing directly from it the power, the imagination, and the will to live as a personality of God, and to do this in a unique and a different manner. But of course, unity does not mean uniformity. We can live together in harmony and with cooperation without infringing on the rights of others. This is the real meaning of democracy and of personal freedom. If 1,000 artists were painting the same landscape, no two drawings would be identical, for each would put something on his canvas that the landscape told him that it didn't tell anyone else. And so it is with everything we do. One of the great lessons of life is to learn to be yourself, to have confidence in the high impulses that come to you as an individual, and to know that a power greater than you are has willed you to be a little different from all the rest. If each is a unique personality, then it follows that all the power there is and all the presence there is back of every individual. There is nothing monotonous in this great scheme of things which we call life. The power to live and the intelligence to know what to do exist at the very center of your being, and you didn't put it there, and you couldn't destroy it if you tried. The sensible thing to do is to accept it and work in cooperation with life. It is my personal conviction that there is a spirit of the real self that accompanies us through life, but that we are only very dimly aware of it. There is an ancient fable which says that when the gods decided to create man and make him divine, they wished to hide his divinity in some place that would be difficult for him to discover. And so they held a consultation in which one of the gods said, "Let us hide man's divinity in the air." But another one replied, "No, someday he will create a machine and fly through the air and discover his divinity." And yet another god suggested that man's divinity should be hidden at the bottom of the sea, while another said, "No, we have given man such power and such an imagination that someday he will make a machine that will penetrate the depths of the ocean." And so after much discussion, they all agreed that the best place to hide man's divinity, the place where he would be least likely to look for it, would be deep within himself, deep within man. For they said, he will always be looking outside himself, and he will never think that the thing he is looking for he already has. And so they hid his divinity at the very center of his being and left him alone to discover it. But always there was an urge in him, feeling that there is something still undiscovered, something that could make everything right, if he knew how to find it and how to use it. And it was this divine thing within him that Jesus discovered, his intimate and individual relationship to the one living Spirit. It was this that gave him the power he had. And all the miracles he performed and all the wonderful signs that followed his life were evidence enough that he had laid hold of a power that other people knew nothing about. Yet they already possessed the things which they were looking for in someone else. And don't you think this must be what Jesus meant when he said that it is neither in the mountain nor at Jerusalem, but within yourselves, that you must discover the real kingdom, the actual spark of life, the pattern of your own divinity? How true it is that we have searched everywhere. We have traveled far and near and searched high and low to find that something that can make us whole and give us joy in living. And seldom indeed has anyone realized that the wonderful person he is, the thing he is really looking for, is really the divinity already hidden within himself. And this is God's good man. Isn't it true that even many of our success stories are but very weak examples of how we should imitate others? Do they really teach us that there is a deep self which does not have to imitate anyone? You can read Shakespeare all your life and never become Shakespeare. You can be familiar with all the poems ever written without being able to produce 3 verses that are original. You can imitate all the great actors and still give a poor performance. This alone should teach us that imitation is suicide. You and I will have to learn how to live by living. We have lived too much by imitation. Now let's try a new experiment. Let's make up our minds that God, the Supreme Intelligence, has hidden within each of us the essence of his own being, and let us alone to discover it, and in discovering it, to find ourselves. First of all, we must have a conviction there is such a real self, hid behind this mask that we are wearing. You and I did not implant this divinity within us. This is the gift of life. How can you account for those inner strivings you have, the feeling that stirs within you, unless it is an echo of some deep self wishing to become revealed? You see, life has made us individual. What we call our personality is merely the use we are making of a presence within us that waits on our recognition of it. Of course, the world is full of skepticism and doubt, and a lot of what we call, or I think perhaps miscall, hard-headed practical people who are so apt to treat lightly the thought that man might be divine. But I am not quite sold on the idea that you can weigh everything in a scale or measure it with a yardstick. You might kill a nightingale, but you will not have captured his song. The thing that produced Beethoven's symphony was Beethoven himself. It wasn't some external or internal piece of mechanism. It was his own soul that projected these symphonies. And when he left this world, he took their cause along with him, even though he did leave behind a beautiful echo for all to hear. Yes, you can dissect the human body, and still its life will have eluded you. You can analyze the brain and not find one single thought hidden there. No, man is not just an aggregate of mechanical reactions. I have never yet seen a typewriter that can of its own accord produce a beautiful poem, nor have I seen a printing press that can produce a sermon on the mount. So at the expense of being thought a little impractical by those who are so filled with common sense that it oozes out of them like perspiration on a hot day, you and I will do well to remain true to a dream no analyst has ever analyzed, because it isn't a dream at all. It is the one solid and final reality about us. We are a spirit right now, and that spirit which you are is rooted in the eternal spirit which is God, the living Spirit Almighty. Deep within us, deep within you and me, and within all people, something was planted by life, planted deep within us, and trying to come forth into the fruitage of endeavor. You and I and all people have our roots in an abiding reality. And how shall the rose tree blossom red unless it draws its being from that life in which it is rooted? And how shall one rose be different from another unless life is imparted to each in some unique, some individual expression of its own feeling, its own beauty, its own fragrance. And so you and I would like to have that great, big, wonderful personality. We would like to be the person we have dreamed of. We have nearly been looking in the wrong place. It is time for us to stop and look and listen, for we are on the crossroads of terrific human events. And everyone awaits news from the kingdom of heaven. And who will bring it? You are the only one who can bring it to yourself. I am the only one who can bring it to myself. We are the only ones who can reveal it to each other. When I say you and I and we mean that the universe and God come silent and alone to each one of us in the stillness of our own soul. God is life, and in him there is no death. God is love, and perfect love casts out fear. And as we enter into this life and this love and commune with this divine presence, let us know that we are one with a living spirit. We know that love guides us now and always. We enter into our divine inheritance today. We know that in the Father's house there are many mansions. Today is God's day, and tomorrow will be God's day, and so will all the tomorrows that ever shall transpire. Love prepares the way for us here, and love prepares the way for us there. We sing the song of eternity. We chant the hymn of the living, for he is not dead, he is risen. And we think of our loved ones who have entered into that larger life, and we know that they are not dead. They are just away. We know that they walk in the garden of God and waft back to us a kiss from the kingdom of heaven, believing that our word is the seed of good, and that the divine giver of all life wills us to have a harvest. We plant this seed in the warm, rich soil of divine love and bury it deep in our faith. And we know that from this seed which is our word, and from the power of God which is greater than we are, we shall receive a harvest. This is the springtime of our hope, and we desire that love, peace, and confidence shall envelop us and everyone we meet, as we sit in the garden of God, which is our Garden of Eden. We desire that joy and happiness shall go forth from us to make glad the life of everyone we meet. We are planting these seeds of happiness, of friendship, of love, of goodwill for everyone and for the whole world. Not alone in our garden do we wish these seeds to grow, but we pray that we may broadcast them wherever we walk, and uniting with all others in faith, we rest in the supreme assurance that that life which the whole world seeks after shall find fruitage in the garden of love that we are planting today.